and welcome to ReCall The Midwife. We are a fan podcast where we watch an episode of Call The Midwife and talk about it. Today, we are talking about Series 10, Episode 7. I'm Alex.
I'm Becky.
I'm Jen. A reminder that this week's episode deals with adoption, disability, and severe poverty. So if those topics are ones you prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one.
In this week's episode, Sister Frances is called out to Lisbon Buildings to Doreen Norris, who is no longer the books of Nonnatus House, but is expecting her second baby. She has a little girl, but the squalid conditions lead the Nonnatans and Violet to bring the situation to the attention of the building's owner, Matthew Aylward. Matthew is shocked by what he sees. Meanwhile, Sylvia Potts is attending a mothercraft class. She's adopting her sister Blanche's baby. Blanche and Walter already have 4 grown daughters. When the baby boy is born with Down syndrome, Sylvia backs out and Blanche immediately feels a maternal bond. Violet, Fred and Reggie help Blanche and Walter to come to terms with baby Robert's condition. Sister Hilda is at the helm at Nonnatus House as Sister Julienne has returned to a retreat at the mother house. Nancy visits Colette at the orphanage, but when she sees bruises on her arm, she takes Colette and flees. Timothy's work at the surgery is drawing to a close, and the Turners and Miss Higgins are preparing to see him off to university. Cyril and Lucille decide to bring the wedding forward to Christmas, and Cyril suffers a bereavement.
Whoa.
Yes.
Girls, I cried for many reasons on this episode, and then I also felt a lot of anger, and that is the emotional roller coaster that I'm on. So with that, there we go.
Which one are we going to talk about? Can I say my notes this week are rubbish because I was doing it. I was watching the episode and I watched it this morning.
Yeah.
I watched it whilst trying to put an Encanto Lego house back together with my daughter.
Ooh.
It didn't work out well for anyone, for the Lego house, nor the notes.
Oh,
I
okay.
also didn't take a lot of notes, but I was not doing anything other than what I was ironing, actually.
I was eating breakfast and having some cheeky pieces of chocolate because let's just say my body told me that I had to. So
Listen to your body.
should we do sisters first? And then, because I feel like the lady
Lisbon
who has
Buildings.
Lisbon
yeah,
Buildings goes into like Trixie and Matthew and all that. So
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about Sister Hilda. So Sister Julienne's
okay.
leaving
Yep,
to
yep.
go to the mother house, isn't she?
for a
Yeah.
retreat. For
Yeah.
a retreat, yep.
And Sister Hilda is left in charge. Now, I love the fact that Sister Hilda was there being like, oh, I'm going to move the chair here so I have the sun look, so I can look out into the sun. And Sister Julienne was like, nah, mate, you ain't doing that. Like,
You're gonna
people
do
need-
exactly what
you're
I
gonna-
do.
Yeah, because your back would be to them and you don't want your back to people. And
And
I
she was
felt
like,
well, I felt like Sister Hilda should have been like, I'll do what I want when you go. Ciao. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just be like, yeah. And then I'd love to have seen a scene with a back facing when someone knocks on the door. A back
And then she's
facing
like,
the door.
yeah. Also, did you love how when Sister Monica Jones said the blessing and then Sister Hilda was like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you maybe you should just always say the blessing because you're the most senior one here. Oh, I mean, chronologically. And everyone was like, oh, like it was just, and it was so awkward. It was like, Sister Hilda, you're making this so weird. Oh, man.
Sister Hilda is just awkward.
She is
I
at
like
times.
it.
She is
I
at
like
times.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
Now, I knew this adoption wasn't going to end well.
You did?
From the minute, yeah.
I didn't remember
Mrs.
this
Dello.
storyline at all, and I was so all in for it. I was so all in for it.
Oh, I love the name Blanche and Sylvia as well as sisters. I love it.
Oh.
Old school names.
The whole first half, I was crying, you guys. I'm not
Well,
even gonna lie.
guys,
I was
she's
so
like, I'm
touched.
42. I'm well too old for a baby. And I'm like,
Well, not only that, she's like, I've already raised 2 girls. They're up and out of the house. I was like,
2 girls.
oh.
That's 4. She's got 4 girls.
Oh, I
She's
forgot
got
that
2
part.
that have left and 2 that
Well,
are still with her.
It was the 2 that came at the end, so I forgot
Yeah.
about. Okay,
They're the
so
ones who
yeah.
are still with her. They were so cute, her girls. They were
Oh my God,
lovely.
her
I
girls
know.
were gorgeous girls. They were gorgeous. Even her husband was cute. I was like,
I know, I was a bit like that.
yeah, I was like, I mean, because the thing was, he looked like a pretty regular, like 40s type guy, but I was like, no, he's holding up well. And honestly, I was like, 10 years ago, I mean, I don't know. I thought he was cute.
I do
Well,
hate
he's in our
storylines when they're like,
demographic, isn't he?
well, he is our demographic now. I didn't fancy him, by the way.
Yeah.
But the way she's like, I'm 42, like I'm too old for this. And I'm like, I'm older than you, love.
Oh my Lord.
I did
Um,
feel for Sylvia Potts for
Mm.
a second. At
I
the
felt for her
start,
for the
when
whole,
she
I
said,
felt for the first half, yeah.
when she wanted a child at the start, you didn't
Yeah.
feel for it at all.
No, I did. But
Yeah.
so Sylvia's her little sister. So Blanche is an older sister. So Blanche was a teenager when Sylvia was born.
Which is exactly what Blanche has just done. She's got
Yeah.
teenage, she's having a baby.
Well,
Yeah.
but also let's just, like, I don't know if it mattered to anybody else, but we meet Sylvia first, and she comes to the Mothercraft class, and was it Sheila who said, she's not pregnant, but she's
Lucille.
oh, Lucille said she's adopting a baby, so she's going to be here with us. And then that sweet lady was like, "Well, do you know what baby you're getting?" And she was like, "No, I don't." And she's like, "Well, then you're just like the rest of us." It was so nice.
Yeah, that is lovely. And
And
it is,
so
adoption is the same because you don't know what
it
you're getting.
is. Yeah, yeah. And so then
Although I know
Lucille,
someone who adopted and he
What do you mean he picked?
picked what he wanted.
like gender?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, did he adopt when they were already up for adoption kind of thing? He didn't
Oh yeah,
adopt from
yeah. They were
birth.
like toddlers.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, they have like catalogs of that.
So how old was the kid when he adopted them?
Like 2.
Oh, okay.
I know someone who adopted like a 2 and a 4 year old, or like a 3 and 1, like they were nearly 2 and 4 as a brother and
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah. But then Lucille catches her coming out of the bathroom and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And she's like, "No, what?" Because she was like wiping her eyes. And she was like, "Well, no, these are tears of joy because when I got married, I didn't want kids right away. But then once I was ready, we tried for like 10 years and nothing ever happened." She's like, literally not even like a false alarm. And she's like, "Now I'm just so happy." And I was like, "Oh, this lady." But then when I realized it was her sister who was having the baby, I was like, "Wait, wait, wait. How is that working?" But then the sister says that she and her husband were shocked when she got pregnant again. They hadn't planned it. And so then this kind of worked out perfect where it was
But
like,
also that it was a formal one because she's been to the solicitors. It was going to be like all above board when they actually
Yeah.
did the adoption.
yeah. Yeah. And the sister was so good about it because like even though you could tell, it's her baby and her husband's baby, she was like, "Okay, I'm really like not thinking about this as much." She was really doing the whole like surrogate thing very well, which I was really touched by.
But also they've spoken about the fact that she was a bit like a mother to her sister because her mum died and she said, look after the baby being her teenage sister at the time. So you can
Which
tell
is
she's kind of
Sylvia.
parented Sylvia quite a lot as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's quite a lot of altruism there anyway, because obviously she sees her as a child of hers, really.
Yeah. Well, and Blanche really struck me as kind of the ultimate mom. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she's clearly been in a motherly role for m many decades, so yeah.
I just would love to know what their ongoing dynamic is. I won't get ahead of the story, but I would love to see how
Same.
it turns out.
Well, do you
I hope it does come to kind of a understanding that I don't know, could it though? Could you forgive? So anyway,
well,
let's
yeah, you
explain.
gotta give context, yeah.
Yeah. So baby boy's born, beautiful little baby boy. He's got Down syndrome, but no one
Whoa,
kind of
whoa, whoa,
realizes at first.
sorry. I just have to say this. So this is where I cried when the baby's being born, she's like, "Oh, you have to keep pushing, like you're just, you have all the strength you need or whatever." And so they have to do a forceps birth. The baby comes out, Dr. Turner says, "Well, do you want to hold him?" And she says, "No, give him to his mother." And
Yeah.
that was Sheila. No, wait. Sheila.
Sylvia,
No, wait,
Sylvia,
Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Standing right there, and you guys, I cried, and Sylvia just looked so overtaken, and she was like, "Oh my," blah, 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 blah.
Well,
And
her
the
and her husband were
sister.
thrilled, absolutely
They were
thrilled.
so excited. They were so excited. And like then they came to visit her. They came to visit Blanche after and she was like, "Look, I've got him dressed up in this like the nicest place suit money can buy." And the husband was like, "Nothing but the best for our little lad." And then she was like, I agree with the sister. Then they were like saying they were going to name her either Justin or Justine and I was like, "Well, those are not good names, but sorry to Justins and Justines out there, but
Again, though,
whatever."
that was their choice and they
It
were
was
loving
their
it.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the sister even said, she's like, "Once we figured out that we were going to do this, she's like, I saw this in the shops and I bought it and I've been holding it back for you." And she gave it to her and it was a little silver baby cup, which I don't, whatever. It was silver baby cup. And she said, "You can have it engraved with whatever name you want." And then
Yeah.
she held the baby and she says, "I love him just like I would any other nephew."
Yeah, she was so good at being a surrogate.
Oh my
Amazing.
God. She was impeccable.
She was just the
Absolutely
best
impeccable.
human being all
She
round.
was. She was. That's how
Yeah.
you get her 42, 43. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
I loved her bouffant as well. I just loved it. It was
Also, I
so
felt like
great.
it got bigger as the episode went on.
Her hair
Yeah.
was massive at the end. Did you guys
Yeah.
see it? It was like a huge, it was like a
Yeah, but the
watermelon on top
more
of her head.
maternal power she has, the bigger the
The
wig.
bigger her hair got.
Yeah. But then, so anyway, she's still there in the maternity unit, and she's like, "Oh, you forget how big the soft spot is on top of the heads." And
Yeah.
Nurse Crane kind of looks a
She's like,
bit.
"Huh?"
I'd already diagnosed him at this point.
I already had, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean it, yeah.
It was quite obvious. Let's be
But
honest.
they take him back to the examination room, and Dr. Turner and Phyllis look at him together, and they basically confirm that he has all the signs of a child who was born with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Turner is like, okay, we're, and he makes a point of saying, we're gonna call it Down syndrome. We're not gonna use any of the horrible other things people
Yeah.
say. And and then they say, well, we feel bad because we're gonna have to break it to the mother. And then Phyllis goes, well, which one,
Which
kind of a
mother?
thing.
Yeah.
But what they do, which I thought was really good, both as a on many levels, both for the story and then also for like kind of the drama of it, is that they tell both women at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you see their very different reactions.
Well, Sylvia says he'll have to go into a home, and
Yeah.
Blanche is like, well, no, he'll go into my home. Like, I'm not having going to the I'm not having him sent into a home. If he goes into any home, it's going to be my home.
Well, even before that, though, she said, "Oh, sorry, Bex, go ahead."
Well, no, you can't carry on.
Well, Sylvia is like, oh, my perfect baby is now not my perfect baby anymore. Like, she's just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I thought he was supposed to be, like she just is upset, almost like, she doesn't see the baby as the baby. She's like, oh, well, what am I, and so, but Blanche just immediately responds with like love and acceptance for this little boy. And Sylvia doesn't really declare what the plan is until that later scene where she says, I have to put him in a home. And Blanche
See,
says, no, he's going to be.
I thought when I first watched this that Sylvia would come round because she's never been a mum before, and obviously,
Yeah.
Blanche had been. Because I
Mhm.
think when you first become a mum, it's hard. Like you've never
Yeah, but
experienced it before.
I don't think it's got anything to do with the fact that Blanche's already mum. I think it's the fact that Blanche carried the baby, so she's already got that bond with him.
I don't know, because I didn't feel one when I had it. Do you know what I mean? Like I just feel like I felt like what we were gonna get was this journey of Sylvia becoming a mother.
Yeah.
In like acceptance of this. I thought that's what we didn't get that.
But I don't think it's the fact that Blanche was already a mum. I don't think that had anything to do. I disagree with you.
I just feel like if I'd had a second child, I think I would have been a hell of a lot more. I don't know. I just think I'd have been more. It was just such a bloody shock. I think as I've been to a baby shower today, I've just been thinking about how shell shocked I was when I first had a baby. I just felt like I didn't know a thing. And carrying a baby had nothing to do with anything to me. I just did not know what the hell I was letting myself in for.
I don't know. I just feel like
the mum who's brought 4 kids into the world, she knows that she's going to love it after a while, whereas the other one doesn't. That's what I kind of meant.
I don't agree, but there we go.
I mean, to me, what was
Jen?
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's hard to say because the thing that made me think of when you guys were saying that back and forth was the Mullocks, like Rhoda versus her husband, where Rhoda was kind of maybe not instantly, but she was very quickly, very quickly, like all in for the baby. Like she's like, Susan's my baby. I'm doing everything for Susan. And then Mr. Mullocks, who I know we gave a lot of grief to, and in all fairness, it's a really, really hard situation. But he was struggling, but he did get there, and a lot of it.
And that's what I thought we might have this time.
Yeah,
and he is a man, so I don't give him the same credence.
But I think.
I was just bummed that she didn't come through because I really thought that she would, and she really kind of started to just like disappear from the story until like the very end when they bring the baby home and then she comes by and it's like, well, I guess whatever, And I just thought it was so sad. She'd been praying for a baby for so long, like lady. I was bummed with Sylvie.
And part of me wonders, as he grows up, will she come to regret that?
Oh, 100%. I think
because she's going to be in his life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I hope that maybe she comes to become like half a parent to him or something, like, takes him a lot of the time.
It's not a baby that you've just walked away from and have no connection with again. Like she's going to be seeing him.
It's your nephew.
Well, and from my understanding, I don't know enough about this, but I do think that there's different levels of disability. And so, I mean, they talked about Reggie, a lot in this episode, but I mean, I think we're assuming that this child is going to grow up and have a lot of capability, even with some of the disability he has. I don't, who knows.
Before we talk about Reggie, can we talk about poor Blanche's husband, who thinks that they just, got this baby that they're going to be giving up for adoption? But that probably took quite a lot of getting used to. And then suddenly he's told, by the way, actually, you're having a little boy. And he's saying, not like, oh, what do you think we should do?
He says to her, he's like, what do you want?
He's so good as well. They're just a lovely couple. Because he's like, what do you want? We're doing what you want.
Yeah.
And then he's just kind of getting his head around it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think even if the baby wasn't disabled, I think like spending a bunch of months thinking, okay, this baby is going to go with, my sister-in-law. And, even though we've da da da, you know, like, because I mean, that newborn phase is just hard to think about being back into anyway, especially once you have kids that are, you know, teenagers and older and
Yeah.
everything. And I think he was as much shocked by just thinking about having a baby back in the house as he was about having to you know, take care of a child that was
They,
very,
they did
very
they did
disabled,
show
you
his
know?
struggle though, because obviously he went to the pub, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Reggie was there, and he kind of just was just struggling, and he just left. And
Yeah.
Fred then followed him, which I thought was a bit of a bold move, if I'm honest. And then
Especially to follow him and have Reggie with
with
you.
him, yeah, that's what I thought, because I thought that could have
But
backfired loads.
Yeah.
but then they had Reggie leave for the like heart to heart part, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Which made a lot more sense because they weren't
yeah.
really going to be able to talk about that in front of Reggie. That would have been sensitive at all.
And it was
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful because you don't see a lot of this in and
Mm.
anywhere really. Whenever anyone on TV has a baby who's got disabilities or anything like that, it's always quite a negative thing. And I really, really liked that him and Violet, Fred and Violet, were talking about the positives of having a child with Down syndrome or like a young man
Hmm.
in their lives because he wasn't a child when they got him. But do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, I really appreciate that. I thought that was amazing because obviously it isn't just this negative thing. There's a lot of amazingness and happiness, and I just really appreciate that. I thought it was really gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
actually, I was thinking, as a family, they're perfectly set up to bring him into their family as well, because the four older daughters, as they get older,
Yeah,
they can
They'll pitch
assume,
in.
yeah,
yeah, 100%. Because also those girls were so accepting of him. They were like, he's ours.
yeah,
Like just
yeah.
straight away. No difficulty there. They were like, he's ours. And he was so
Hmm.
gorge. But
Mm.
I've got I've got
I think he had ginger hair.
yeah, he was absolutely gorgy. But like the scenes with him and Reggie, just I loved it. I loved it so much.
Oh, I loved it when Reggie
Mm.
wanted to push the pram. That's basically me. And then he said, "Wait." Now, what I wonder is, do you think they had this story on the back burner and they were waiting for a baby, or do you think they cast the baby because I've
Hmm.
heard a thing where they were saying about how because they need really little babies that they'll literally like the casting people will literally stop pregnant women in the street and be like, "Oh, do you want? Have you had that baby? Do you want to?"
Hmm.
I
Ooh, I
made that
wonder.
sound like it's quite a like
Or
that
did they
kind
do a
of
big
Like
thing?
maybe Heidi Thomas had kind of because I will say this storyline did not really intersect that much with anybody else.
Yeah,
So
but
they could have
also,
put it
you
into
know,
any.
nowadays, if most of the time, because they do tests, don't they, quad tests and stuff like that. Because every scan they
Oh
check
yeah.
for so you'd know if you had a Down syndrome baby, or because they couldn't measure, they could measure the back of the skin, don't they, on their neck, and they couldn't see on my scan. So then I had a quad test as well because they wanted to know. But it's a long story. But the point is, you know, before mostly, like most pregnancies would know if you had it or not.
Were you
So they could have been
technically
like, "Oh, are you?"
geriatric?
No, I wasn't technically geriatric.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I would have been if I was. So I was 36 when I gave birth, but I was only 2 weeks into being 36.
Oh
So I feel
yes,
like
you.
most of my pregnancy I wasn't geriatric, but I feel like the 2 weeks at the end I was maybe. I don't know. But I was never referred to as geriatric. Not to my face anyway.
I think that's a terrible thing to call somebody, to be honest with you.
So many of our friends and everything have been called geriatric.
I know. Well, my mom's whole thing is that like a geriatric, like in her day, like a geriatric pregnancy was a woman who gave birth over the age of like 27 or 30 or whatever. And she was just like nowadays, you
Yeah.
know, she's like it all like all of these standards just change over time. Like it doesn't really, you know, she's like it's all kind of made up in a way. The thing though the scene between Fred and the dad, and I can't remember if the dad had a name.
Walter.
Walter, where he talked about his fears. And I will say, I felt so sympathetic to this dad. And now that I've mentioned Mr. Mullix, I kind of am like, why didn't I feel as sympathetic to him? I don't know. But anyways, this dad, like, I really, really felt for him. And the thing that absolutely broke my heart was when he talked about how he had seen some kids who were disabled and had maybe Down syndrome and some other disabilities, like when he was a kid, and they were all being led around because they were in a special school, and that he
Yeah.
and his friends had thrown rocks at this child or these children, and it really hurt them. Like literally, like he could see that he
Yeah.
had hurt them, and he was like, I feel so bad. He's like, and
Do
he
you know
was
what?
processing.
He lost me there though. I was a bit like, you should be feel bloody bad.
Well, no, he should feel bad,
Yeah.
100%. But I think then that was a real moment of like, oh my God, you know, this is the type of world that exists. You know, this is the type of unfair prejudice and like discrimination and also like misunderstanding that people have about, you know, this. And now I'm taking on this child in my own home that could be in this way. And what if someone hurts him? And am I up to the challenge and like, I don't really understand what I'm getting myself into. I mean, it was just a very new, like and then Fred talking about how wonderful Reggie was and how he didn't really know what he was signing up for, but he was going into it and everything. And then Vi's support of Blanche was so beautiful. And the part that absolutely had me sobbing was when she says to Blanche, she's like, not a lot of people are going to tell you this, but you're a very, very lucky woman.
Yeah.
And
I loved that. Like a celebration. But I love that because it's so rare you see that on screen. And I know a lot of people, I know somebody who's got Down syndrome child, and they're the light of their bloody life. And you're a bit like, I wish more of that was shown.
But I think is the contrast between Walter and the Mullock's husband is at no point did I feel like he didn't accept the baby. I think it was just I mean, Alex said earlier, like at one point the baby was just going to be given up for adoption, so they weren't going to have a new baby. Then all of a sudden they've got a newborn baby.
Yeah, it was just getting his head around it.
And so I feel like it was just getting his head around like the constantly changing situation.
Yeah. I feel like it was half the fact that they were actually having a baby, not really.
I'm with that, definitely. Yeah, and then basically Sylvie just kind of just faded into the background, didn't really do anything. And then when they brought the baby home, they had a little baby, welcome baby event, like party kind of a thing.
And she re-gifted the gift.
Yes, and
maybe not Justin though, Robert.
Yeah, they named the baby Robert in the end.
Much better name.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah.
Do you know what I did like about the casting of Blanche and Sylvia? I could believe they were sisters like 15 years apart.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
I really liked Sylvia's style. Not giving up babies, but like her actual sartorial style.
Yes. No, Sylvia was very fashionable for her time. Absolutely. Yeah. I hope that it worked out in some way for all the people involved, little Robert and, Sylvie and her husband. Yeah, it was sad. It was sad it went that way. I mean,
do we think Blanche is disappointed in Sylvia?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Is disappointed in her own like, because I was saying like it's her only child. It's like her own child because she kind of, when her mum died, she kind of took on that responsibility. I can't see how you couldn't. You'd still have that love, but I just can't see how you couldn't be disappointed in that.
Well, she even kind of yelled at her about it when they first got told. She was kind of like, I can't remember the lines, but it's something like, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with him? And she says like, you're supposed to love him or something like that. And it's like, how could you not just look at this baby and just see like sweet, sweet little angel baby like the rest of us see, And
you see a problem, not love. Like it's just
yeah, I'm sure she was disappointed.
Oh, and his little forceps marks on his cheeks, but he had to go into makeup for that.
Yeah. little blush lines that they put around him.
I just loved it when Violet saw him and she was just like, we never got to see Reggie like this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a missing piece.
A missing piece, yes. Yeah. Oh, it was really Violet and Fred were so beautiful in this, and yeah.
And I feel like they just knew that Walter just had to be around Reggie.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that would have really helped Walter, and they should have probably bloody done that for Sylvia.
Yeah, they should have done.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say they didn't really make any effort. It seemed like in the show to kind of be like, well, Sylvia, what about if you just give it a try? Like everyone was just like, okay, you're out, which was kind of sad.
Well, one chance she blew it.
Yeah, she really did. Oh my gosh, but it did kind of come to a happy end. So
yeah.
All right.
Hope he had a lovely long life.
Yes. Well, I mean, Robert was born in what, 1970? Is this 1970?
66.
This is 66. So, I mean, Robert would be, oh my God, he would be 59 years old today.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was a real person. I know he's a fictional person, but yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about that storyline?
Nope.
It just made me cry the most.
Meanwhile, at Lisbon Buildings.
Ugh.
They made a big thing about Doreen Norris not being on the books anymore. I made a big thing of it. I put it in the synopsis.
And then no one mentioned it. Yeah, but then no one mentioned it. Why wasn't she on the books?
Had her husband left her?
It didn't sound like he had. Because the way that they said it, it's like, oh, like, what is your husband going to think about something you having a baby? And she's like, I don't even think he knows I'm pregnant. And I was getting more that he was like a man at sea or something like that than that he had like ditched the family.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But this is like, they were like, oh, deliver now, ask questions later, but never ask questions.
Don't ask
Well, the thing is, she was not really she was just a catalyst for everything else. Like, as a mom, like, she was not really.
Oh, that mattress, guys.
Oh my word.
But I would have had to have stuffed it myself.
Same, and put a towel over the top or something and sewed it down.
Don't just have a gaping thing that you're going to disappear into.
But she did stuff it with newspaper. It just wasn't enough because I think she'd stuffed it and then it got mushed down. And then Frances was like, and when she said you're sinking into the bed, I'm like, oh, well, how bad can it be? But they showed it and it was literally like she was sitting in a donut hole.
I mean, that's probably good for after the birth.
Honestly, yeah, really. It was truly like just a mattress-sized hemorrhoid pillow. I mean, it was like there was just a gaping hole that her butt was sticking
if
into.
that wasn't worse enough, the water had gone off.
Yeah.
Oh.
So she has to call in reinforcements with Trixie, who has to basically bring warm water.
Ugh. And the building is already like the irony of having no water in a building where literally moisture is seeping out of every surface on the walls. Just it was horrible. The whole building was disgusting.
It was absolutely rank. Anyway, Doreen Norris did like a push and had a little girl.
Yeah. They said Sister Frances was going to spend the night.
Well, she was just crying. She was like, it's such a mess. It's all just such a mess when she cried, about the whole situation. And then, so yeah, Sister Frances was there with her.
At first, when I watched it, I was like, why is Sister Frances on the sofa? Is she just fallen asleep? But she does make a conscious decision to stay over.
Yeah. And then the rat's there in the middle of the night. And can I just say, Sister Frances terrified me. The frenzy, the absolute frenzy. She carried on smashing his head. It was like something off a film. She was, it was a film, I suppose.
After that rat, she was like, you could just feel the anger.
She was a bloody woman possessed. She beat the living daylights out of this rat. It was dead after the third one, mate. You don't need to carry on 30 extra times.
I didn't think it was going to be like one body anymore. I thought she was going to have like chopped it into pieces. Like when she says look on the sideboard, I thought it was going to be like look like something worse than roadkill.
Like why the hell are you doing it 55 billion times?
Oh my God. It was like, yeah, she just, she just couldn't. She was like she blacked out and just entered this like murderous rage or whatever.
Yeah, but I wrote in massive letters, she was fuming.
Oh yeah. Well, her scream, I mean, when she screamed, it was just blood curdling. Like it was unreal.
Now, she did something that it's weirdly one of my favorite scenes I've ever seen, where she, in an anger, like something I can only liken it to something from Rambo. Her anger. Yeah. She was so angry. She takes this dead rat and puts it on Violet's counter at the haberdashery. It's just like something off a horror film.
I know. And Violet screamed.
Well, she was crying as well, Sister Frances, when she did it. And it was a very un-Sister Frances thing to do.
It was, yes. I'm full agreement.
Yeah, like it's a very un-nun-like thing to do as well. Like go on to and put a dead rat on someone's counter. And I get why you're angry, but I was a bit like, I think that might be a bit too much, Sister Frances. Putting a dead rat in front of another customer, and I just think maybe when you're there, that might be a little bit too much. It was a very emotional scene, don't get me wrong, and I think she did it really, really well. I also thought, is that the kind of thing Sister Frances would do? I don't think so.
Also, it was the fact that Violet was like, you need to come during my office hours. Please present this bloodied rat.
See, in this
I'd be ringing the bloody police if someone put a dead rat on my counter.
Oh my gosh, girls. I don't know though. Like to me, okay, remember how last week I said that was Violet redirecting her to office hours, like good boundaries or like her being like insensitive?
Yeah, you were like, it's all about boundaries.
Boundaries, right. This week I was like,
you're like, I don't get it's all about this week, you're like, last week, you're like, yeah, boundaries. This week, you're like, dead rats are okay then.
Honestly, though, I did because to me, now granted, I get the context of why that wasn't a good choice, but like Sister Frances coming to her with that much energy, that much passion, that much like severity of what she had just seen felt, I don't know, I guess I was caught up in it. I felt like it was very warranted. To me, it was an extreme gesture, but when Violet was like, come talk to me in my office hours, I was like, Violet, no. I'm sorry. Like, you need to address this differently.
Dead right in front of me, I'd be like, what like it would be awful.
Oh no, it would be awful and everything, but but my first thing wouldn't be like
and the disease, Jen.
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying yes to the rat, but I'm saying like there's a time and a place, and when Sister Frances came to the haberdasher a week ago, it was because she wanted to start like a class. You know what I mean? It was like not, it was important, but not urgent. This was both urgent and important. And to me, like, let's just take away the rat. Like, let's say she'd come in there and she was like, you wouldn't believe what I just saw. This is, and she had all the same energy, but she didn't have the rat. To me, that's where Violet can be like, okay, listen, like, I want to hear you. Can you just sit down? I'll get you a cup of tea. Let's talk about it. And then she would have like closed out that other lady that she was talking to Harvest Dinner about. And then she would have been like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like that to me, like there's a time and a place to say, talk to me when we're supposed to talk. And then there's a time to say, okay, listen, like I do appreciate that this has to be addressed now to me. And that's how I took it.
So would you be okay if one of your clients came and put a dead rat on your desk?
No, I don't want anyone to put a dead rat on my desk, but I do have clients that call me up and they're upset about something that's just happened, and it is important enough that I have to address it right then, and I can't just put them off. And that's what I felt like this was. But no, I don't want a biohazard in my office, but like
all I'm saying is, Jen, I actually have got your parcel ready. There's something that Bob's has actually done this week that we need to wait for that's going in, but maybe I could just add a dead rat in it.
Well, I'll supply one.
I'll believe that parcel when I see it.
I think you'll find actually, Jennifer, Bob's went to a party and she's painted something just for you.
I'm very excited about that, but
I mean, it might just get smashed on the way, but it's coming.
I'll be very happy to get it when it comes.
You will. So Violet finds so she actually does do something about this, which I think she would anyway, if I'm honest. And she finds out that the Lisbon buildings, are owned by Halewoods and Sons.
Yeah.
And obviously this is before Google.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, they want to meet you at the office. And Trixie's like, nah, mate, nah. We're going to meet at Doreen's flat.
Yeah.
Basically,
they have to see what it's really like.
Yeah. And then who turns up? It's not Halewoods and Sons. It's Aylward.
Aylward, yes.
Hashtag orcs. Trixie. Oh, my goodness, mate. The shouting, the throwing.
Can I just say that acting, that scene for the two of them was sublime. Like they were, the other two, Violet and Hilda were just window dressing. The two of them were so good in that scene. They were just hitting every note. Like so much was happening. Like when he walked in and he was like, oh my God, Trixie's here. And then Trixie was like, oh my God. You could tell, like you could just see so many emotions on her face. Like she was both like shocked, but then also like I felt like weirdly embarrassed, but then like upset, but then kind of like I better keep my mouth shut because da da da. And then he was like, you know, oh my God, like this is so weird. And then like, but you know, seeing the thing, and he knew that it was partly his fault, and then he was like, but what do I do? And I feel so at a loss, and this is like so disgusting and everything like that, but at the same time like da da da. And then when he like was like, okay, well anyways, I'll think about something and call you later, and then he walked out, and then she was like, that's not all there is, and then she runs after him and they start yelling at each other, and then
she's like, how dare you walk out, how dare you walk out. Although sometimes I'm not as fan of her being as aggressive as you are, I think. Go on.
I don't think it was necessary. I think I think he got the message. You could see he was visibly shocked.
But what was he going to do though?
Well, we don't know then, because he wasn't given the chance to go and do it.
He had the toy thrown at him.
I think that was good.
That outburst on the landing was not necessary, because I think he'd got the message.
I totally disagree with that. I love you, but I totally disagree with that.
I disagree only because I know what they were trying to convey with that, if you see what I mean. Like, I feel like, I agree, Bex, in real life, I think he would have got the message and just like, be like, this is awful, I need to leave and get it sorted. But obviously they did that scene so that Trixie could say this to him to be more powerful, if you see what I mean.
Well,
sometimes you need to get a urine-soaked baby doll thrown at your face, and I think that was very warranted. Yeah, absolutely.
So then after that.
But wait, okay, keep going, because there's like more happens. Go on. Well, because then like, so they have this fight, and he has the last word, and she's like, and she's so upset. But then he leaves, and then later on, she feels
she should apologize.
Oh no, she's in her. No, she shouldn't apologize. Absolutely not. Then she's in her uniform, and she answers the Nonnatus phone, and he's like, "Hi, it's me. Like, I'm really sorry." Like, she's like, "Well, you should be." Click, and she hangs up on him, and I was like, oh. Oh yeah, I was living for that. I was
But you know what? The underlying here, sexual tension. Carry on.
absolutely yes, but also like to put a man like that in his place, mwah, sublime. I was like, how often do you think he's ever gotten talked to like that? How often do you think anyone's ever told him like the real deal and like he's actually been in a position where he needs to listen? Like I mean, I will say this is now edging into like enemies to lovers, like rom-com territory, and I get that. I know I'm off the deep end and I fully accept it, but at the same time, I'm sorry, like I'm just for it. And then she gets bed bugs because Sister Frances brought bed bugs back from that apartment, and then the rest of them get infected, and so like all of her stuff is garbage, which it was terrible, and I was like, oh my God. So then she's wearing hand-me-downs, and she's got this like basically shapeless dress on with like a equally horrible cardigan.
Oh, but
And
I feel for her with the bed bugs because it isn't like you can just put them on a boil. Like you can't just put her things on a boil wash.
no. Bed bugs is a scourge. It's the most terrible thing in the world. Never, ever should anyone ever get bed bugs. They're horrible. But then she goes, then the door knocks and they're like, oh, do you want to answer the door? And she's like, oh, I guess I will. And so she goes and answers. Well, it's him. It's Matthew. And he's like, well, listen, I really am sorry. And she's like, well, a lady always accepts an apology. And he's like, well, a gentleman should know when he's wrong. And then he's like, I really want to talk to you. She's like, yes, I want to talk to you too. But she's like, now's not the time.
Not now, because I look like hell.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could tell she wanted to get like back on her kind of good foot because she was really like feeling very low, which I completely 100% get. And then the next time they talk, he's, I'm not even going to comment on like what he's wearing, but whatever, they talk and he like really feels contrite. And then they just have this scene where he basically is like, I've had, 100+ years of my family owning these buildings and, the Victorian times and, and then Trixie goes, well, there's 5 monarchs since then. So, something's got to change. And he's like, I know, but what? How can I do it? And it's kind of a ... type of moment because we're not really sure what they keep saying, but they're, and actually it was interesting because if they were in I don't know where they were, but it was like very private. Like they were at a table for 2. It was like they had gotten tea or so. I don't think they were at a pub. It didn't get I got kind of like a cafe vibe from it. But I feel like that's something that's going to be like a trend in their relationship going forward. But anyways, but then get this. He goes to the office. Sister Julienne is back. She walks up to Nonnatus house. She's like, here we go again. And
wait,
what?
You're skipping ahead.
Oh, what did I miss?
Well, he talks about the fact that he's still dealing with his grief.
Oh,
because he reads Trixie reads.
I thought he gave the check before he read the letter.
No, because that's the reason he gives it in her name.
Oh, and then they go to the chapel to read the letter.
No.
They go first to read the chapel with the letter, and then he does the check in his wife Fiona's name.
Oh, okay. So they go to the because I know they read the letter in the chapel because
she says like don't let Jonty, she doesn't call him Jonty, be something that don't let him be my legacy or let him be something that grows from it, like find something else to remember me by.
Well, and even if it's the picture of her smiling in a silver frame, then
oh my
so
God.
be it.
I was crying. I was crying with the.
Well, firstly, why did Trixie read the letter? Trixie's, knowing what we know, such a weird situation.
It is a weird situation because we do know that obviously she marries him, but also the way that we know she marries him. It's mad that she's bringing up her stepson, that she was there at his birth.
I know.
You guys, I just don't think that this is so crazy.
No, but
maybe that's for your future, Jen. Maybe that's your future.
Oh,
why did she read the letter? Why didn't he just read the letter?
Well,
it was a very emotional, lovely scene. It did basically say, "Suck it up. It's not about you anymore. It's all about Jonathan."
Well, why didn't a voiceover of Fiona read the letter?
Because she'd had her payday. That was it. They had a one day where they took a picture of her in a negligee, and that's the only one they had of her.
She could have recorded that letter while they had her.
True.
I don't know. To me, there was something very poignant about the way that they did it, with Jonty like sitting up in the little pram in between them, and then Matthew is on like one side of the chairs in the chapel, and Trixie's on the other side of the chairs, and she's reading the letter to him. And
social distancing.
I mean, actually, I thought about social distancing a lot with this episode, and
Same.
it became more and more and more obvious as I was like looking for it because like Lucille and Cyril, like even like, well, we'll get there anyways. But so they're sat opposite, and this is the letter that Trixie helped Fiona write on her deathbed, and now finally it's being read out. And basically, she says, before, it was always about us and about you, and our life together and Christmas, and if I'd written this letter a year ago, I would have put all this stuff in it, but now I'm here, and now it's about Jaunty and it's about our future. And she's like, don't look to the past, look ahead. And really people are going to say he's my legacy, but she didn't say he's not my legacy, but she said, you're the one that's going to be the giving him everything as he boosts into
but
his
also
new
it's
life.
not, she was also like, it's not about me anymore. It's not about you
Yes.
anymore. It's about Jonathan.
It's about Jonathan, and it's about what we're giving him and what we're doing for him and
Yeah.
all the potential that he has. And it was, I mean, tears were streaming down his face. She was crying as well. Obviously, all of us were crying at home. It was so emotional. It was so beautiful. It was such a lovely letter. And I don't know, I just thought it made so much sense that Trixie read it. I mean, she was the one that had helped write it. I didn't think it was weird. I'm sorry, I didn't think it was weird.
I only do just because I know what's coming up. Do you know what I mean? I can't separate it.
But the thing is, like, you guys, I mean, and I agree with you. I'm trying to take my own lesson here. You guys have been telling me for ages, like, don't, like, stop looking at Cyril and Lucille through the lens of what we know is coming and just enjoy it for what it is and, like, think about them as they are right now.
You don't really do that, though. You just look at it through a horn dog lens.
No. I'm working on it.
Should we shout out can we just at this point mention the social media that we had this week?
What was it?
With the Cyril fan page.
Yes, someone found my Cyril fan page. I'm joking. I don't have a Cyril fan page.
We did have an absolute lols message. So there's a Cyril group, Cyril Robinson, like loads of pictures of him, and Helen Lowe put a thing underneath tagging us in it saying Jen will love this, and she's not bloody wrong.
I did love it. I do love it.
I sent it through to Jen and Beck lolling. So thank you very much, Helen. That
was so funny. It was so funny. But again, like not to be like, so serious, but again, like if you just watch the natural progression of how things move along, it makes complete sense. Like if you jump to the end, of course it's going to feel weird, but like the fact that we're watching all these like little incremental things, I think it's spot on.
Should we talk about Nancy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Come on, Bex, defend this. So
I think any mother would do the same.
Oh my God. So Nancy goes to see her sister, and the nuns won't make
sister.
Can we just say Nancy's upset? Her future is very uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows if she's going to be dismissed. Sister Julienne
is like, it's the stupidest thing to just take her when you've got no money to go to a hotel. Well, let's just go.
Nancy is so irritating. Yeah, just tell what happened.
Nancy goes to see her sister, and the nuns aren't making it easy, right? And then the
gray habit wearing nuns where the little girl is staying.
The ones that brought her up. So now she does find bruises on her arms.
A perfect hand mark of bruises.
It was like almost like ridiculously. Yeah.
But then what she does is, rather than like, actually try and go through the proper channels, talk to someone about this, make it sorted, she takes Colette.
She doesn't just take her. She tries to go to the head nun and speak to her.
No. And what happens?
She gives her short thrift and doesn't address her concerns properly, which leaves Nancy with no alternative.
Oh my God, just such a thing.
You're ridiculous. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
To a hotel when she didn't have any money. I mean,
she's not thinking about her sister.
She's not thinking about Colette here. When, like, if you're in a desperate situation, take her to this absolutely godforsaken hotel, and she's just not any money.
Right. I just need to double down on this.
You don't need to. You never need to. You genuinely do not need to.
You know what got me as well? Like this horrible landlord comes. Knocks on the door.
Disgusting man.
I knew what he was going to be like, and she says that she hasn't got any money. Why would
you tell someone that?
No, I'd have just been like, I'm
I'll
going to
be in the morning
later. I'm waiting to get paid or something.
Yeah.
So he says I can wait for the money, and then he makes this vile comment about, but maybe
I'm a kind man, and maybe you can be kind too.
Maybe be kind too. Well, then there's a bit of a altercation. he slams the door. Can't remember exactly what happens, but she gets hit in the face. What I will say, she's already sent Colette out onto the landing to use the bathroom.
Yes.
This was ridiculous. This made me
She
insane.
slams the door shut. She basically shuts him out with her daughter.
That's what I was like. Exactly.
Yes,
That's exactly my
she's
point
left
there.
she's left him with a predator, basically.
Yeah.
And he does that with Colette there. I'm not saying he's right in this, but also the fact is you'd absolutely just run out and make sure Colette was okay. Your first thing would be to do that. And what annoys me about this whole thing is that there's Nancy has done these stupid decisions. She just does stuff without thinking. And what really pisses me off is it all works out okay for her because people are there to mop up her crap.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit like, do you know what? I'd like you to see the consequences of your own bloody actions, but you don't because everyone's just mopping it up, making it okay for you.
Well, how do you think she wound up? I mean, anyway.
But like, she's got onto these courses because the nuns lied. So she's gone to this
to help her out, by the way.
Yeah. So then she goes,
but those nuns aren't nice nuns.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying that, but it's nice to hit kids. But in 1966, it wasn't the whole social taboo that it is now. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, I just mean they're not. It's not like those nuns are really rooting for Nancy. I'm not talking about the fact that Colette's got the bruises on her. I'm just like with the whole situation. Like they basically think that Nancy is like a wicked girl.
I mean, I agree.
I mean, the thing is,
this is a podcast. Becky just did the most evil look.
But the thing is, like, what actions of Nancy's have really reinforced the fact that she is like the right person to be taking care of Colette right now? I mean, she's ruined her own case on that, and it's just like,
but then
if you want to show you're a responsible
person, to find a local foster family. So actually, she's got away. Like a local foster family is going to take care of Colette. And it's a bit like, well, that's again, she's done something really bloody stupid, but actually it's worked out better for her because of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, even when they say, like, what do you want? And she's like, oh, no one's ever asked me what I want before. It's like, well, maybe because, like, by the time that anyone would even get around to talk to you about it, you've already just run off and done the most irresponsible thing anybody ever could. And then they're like, well, now I've got this even bigger mess to clean up, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, there's impulse. I get it. There's, like, impulsive decisions and stuff. But she always acts first and thinks later. And it's like destruction in a way. And she wasn't thinking of Colette when she took her from a home to take to that hotel. She wasn't thinking of Colette. She was thinking of herself. Yeah, it still worked out best for Nancy because Nancy gets what she wants, and it just annoys me.
Well, also, remember the part where at the beginning when they're talking to it was Blanche, and they were saying, and Blanche was like, oh well, I'm gonna give the baby up for adoption to my sister or whatever, and then she's like, well, did you guys plan to have this baby, or did you like always want to give it up? You know, she says something like really like kind of inappropriately. I can't remember exactly what the line now was, but they were like, well, okay. And then Phyllis was like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about, blah, blah, blah. And then she gives Blanche a look and rolls her eyes. And I'm just like, Nancy, like.
But then Sister Hilda.
She just thinks about herself.
Yeah, but even then, after all this, after acting on impulsion and finding out that it's just this awful decision that shouldn't actually turned out dangerous, and then she had to go back to Nonnatus House and everything.
Oh, yeah. She's very young, though.
Oh, Becky.
Bex.
So Sister Hilda basically has to then persuade her not to tell. So Colette's been pulled out of this bloody home, the only home she's known. She's now going to a foster family, and then Sister Hilda has to like talk Nancy down from telling her that she's a mum. It's like you're just going to completely change everything about her aspect of her life, and then tell her you're a mum, not a sister, in one fell swoop. Like, what the hell are you thinking? So then she agrees not to tell her anything, but you're just a bit like, why should she have to tell her that? She knows that's not the best thing for her daughter, to change her whole life in one fell swoop. At least leave it a little bit till she settles more, until Nancy's settled more. It just annoys me. She's so selfish.
But that's the thing. She doesn't think about her daughter that way. She thinks she's doing what's best, but really she's just doing what's best for her right then. Because she's honestly as childish as even more than Colette is at times, honestly.
I don't think it's coming from a place of selfishness.
What is it coming from then, if it's not protecting a child?
I think it's coming from a place of immaturity.
I mean, agreed, but also selfish.
Well, but the thing is, part of immaturity is being selfish in a way.
I don't think she's intrinsically being selfish. She's trying to do what's best for her daughter, but she's just not going about it the right way.
Yeah, but why? How? So she's tearing a daughter out of her home she's only known. How is telling her that she's a mum at the same time the best thing for a daughter? I think it's just the best thing for her.
That's a huge thing to process. That's a huge thing to process.
Yeah, not that. I'm not talking about that specific aspect of it. I'm just talking about the general situation.
But this is the thing, Nancy, even after she's just had an experience where she's done something impulsively without thinking about what the ramifications could be, the first thing that she says to Sister Hilda is, okay, now that she's in her foster home, can I tell her that I'm her mom? And it's like, well, wait a minute, why don't we let this child actually like go and to this home and like adjust and figure this out and kind of get her bearings under her before you just ram another massive thing down her throat that she didn't even ask for. And that's the thing that Nancy just never realizes, that it's like, stop and think, stop and think. Like,
Yeah, but stop and think about her, not herself. And it just annoys me.
yes,
I really did love
absolutely.
a scene though where Miss Monica Joan was like, "Oh, I should not want to tell Sister Julienne of these catalogues of errors on her return," and Sister Hilda's face was
She was like,
outstanding. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
I just think, yeah, Nancy just has so much to figure out, and she just thinks she like knows everything and knows best, and it's just
thing
really
is though, I don't
annoying.
really see anything in the future of her kind of. She just gets what she wants when she wants it. There's
Well, she's
no kind
still,
of learning forever, really, when I'm thinking forward. But we'll see. We'll see. There might be.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like everything just works out so well for Nancy, and it's like, okay, I guess.
Well, she grew up in an orphanage, so it didn't work out that well.
Well, you say that. She's where she is now.
I mean, look, it is sad that she grew up in an orphanage, but again, even more reason why she should like really be thoughtful about the kind of life that she wants to provide for her child and like think about a life that actually could like give true stability rather than just like, oh, I'm just gonna like snatch you out of here with literally the clothes on your back and nothing else, including me, nothing other than the few pennies that I have in my purse when I left the house this morning, and we're gonna spend
And
all
leaving
the
land
day.
on leaving
And
landing with a creepy landlord.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, like, it didn't go this way in the show, but like, what if that man had pushed through the door and actually raped her? Just think about that. That is an outcome that could have happened. Like, he was definitely strong enough to have busted through. And by the way, she sent her daughter out of the room. And so either the daughter's going to walk back in on that violent act, or the daughter could be potentially a subject to him doing something to her that Nancy didn't want because she was the one who locked herself in the room after he made his
I just
pass.
don't think you give Nancy any credit for the fact that she is trying to like she's trying to make a life for her daughter. She's trying to train to be a midwife. Like she said, when they ask her what she wants to train to be a midwife. She wants to build a life. She wants to be respectable. I don't think you give her any credit for those things. I think she's a child herself.
I think she's
A
24.
child.
24. I mean, it's literally about 2 years younger than me. So,
It's definitely some arrested development. I'll give her that.
yeah. Becky's face.
I
I just
mean,
don't know why you're defending her so hard when
I
she
don't know why
is
you're so harsh on her.
because she's been. I do think if this was any other character, Bex, that you hadn't decided to attach yourself to, you'd be like, "That's a stupid decision," and then we go from there, done. But you're like, "No, she's the best thing that ever lived." Like,
you'd be like, I haven't warmed to her. I haven't warmed to her.
can we talk about courgettes?
Yes.
Yeah, because Corvettes, why is everybody looking down their nose at a courgette when they're quite happy to accept a marrow? A marrow is the work of the devil.
Is this because of the harvest dinner?
Yeah, Fred's got a glut of courgettes.
Oh,
But like,
because see,
they're obviously
I
new.
only
They're
saw the
obviously new in
barest mention of the
1966.
harvest dinner.
Yeah, but they're obviously new in the 1966. In 1966, they're new. You know, like pasta, maybe.
Wait, so
Um,
you guys didn't have courgette, which by the way, for the American listeners is zucchini. You guys didn't have that until the 1960s?
I mean, we don't know because we weren't there, but
I'm
apparently
guessing
not.
so. Maybe you didn't. I don't know.
I feel like we've had zucchini for a long
You
time.
don't know. You literally don't know that, Jen.
I mean, I kind of do know it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I kind of do. Okay.
When did
Courgettes
you
became
have
popular. Hang
courgettes?
on, hang on. Listen. Courgettes became popular in the UK in the second half of the 19th century, meaning they were introduced to the country around that time period, right? That makes sense. 1960s, right? They
Right, what about
originated
that?
from North and Central America
Oh, okay.
and were developed into the modern courgette form in Italy. So Jen is correct.
Yeah.
On this, but not on Nancy.
I agree with Jen. Wholly on Nancy.
Well, I don't know why they were so accepting of marrows, but turned their nose up at courgettes.
Well, also to me, from what I understand, marrows are what happens when you don't pick a courgette at the
Yeah,
right
that's what I
time,
mean.
and it then turns into something really unedible. I don't know why you guys would not. Why would you let it sit on the vine that long and then turn into this hard, dry fruit that?
I mean, again, this is our ancestors.
Not
Oh,
us, Jen.
I know, but
I'm
you
out there
still,
growing
but don't
yellow
you still do
courgettes.
it? Why do you still have marrows in the store then? Do you, I mean, is it, have they
I
fallen
don't
out
have.
of
I've
fashion?
We
never
don't have
seen a marrow.
marrows.
I've never seen a marrow in the supermarket, Jen.
We're
Oh,
talking about the 1960s, Jen.
so now it's only courgettes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like a
Marrows are out of
courgette.
fashion. Okay.
Well, people still grow them,
Grow what?
marrows
Marrows.
on allotments.
They have like
Why?
marrow growing competition
Why?
because they have marrow growing
Well, we
competitions,
don't
Jen.
know why, Jen.
I think it's because of marrow growing competitions, Bex.
Doesn't make any sense. It
What?
really doesn't.
There's like prizes for best marrows, biggest marrows in these competitions.
I mean, we have stuff like where people grow like pumpkins and they try to see who can grow the biggest pumpkin. But I
Yeah,
mean,
And we're not advocating for marrows.
I am.
okay.
I'm gonna my marrows are my Nancy.
Marrows don't make sense to anybody.
They do to me, Bex.
Okay, actually though, I am
Don't make
curious
me quit the podcast.
if you were gonna if you were gonna eat a marrow, like what does anyone even do with it?
I wouldn't do it.
I've had a risotto with some marrow in.
I've
Okay.
been given. No, I'm not going to disclose this on the podcast because I don't want to. I've been gifted overgrown courgettes, and I put
Okay.
them in my food recycling.
Ooh.
That's what I'd do with Nancy.
Whoa.
Right,
Whoa.
so Cyril and Lucille were getting married at Christmas, and Sister
Wait.
Frances.
Wait, they've brought it forward because Cyril's horny.
Well,
Hold
Cyril
up.
and Jenn would be the perfect
speaking of
couple.
courgettes,
Hold on. Let's give some context because I think this deserves a minute. Because this is actually really touching. So Cyril and Lucille are sitting at his apartment. And actually, this I made a note about because I really thought it was very interesting. So they're at his apartment. They're sitting very far apart. Like she's at the table. He's literally sat on the arm of the chair of his living room. And she's reading him a letter. And basically it's a letter from home or telegram that says that his grandfather has passed away, his like beloved grandfather. And he says that the day before he got on the ship to come to the UK, he went to his grandfather and he had this really beautiful goodbye with him and it was very emotional. And he said he was the person that I felt the most sure that I would not see ever again. But he's like really, really sad that his grandfather is gone. But here's what I thought was so beautiful. And I don't often notice these details, but I'm sure they're in the show more than I notice them. But I don't know if anyone caught this, but he's wearing this shirt that has like different colored stripes on it. On each stripe is black sailboats. You know, like big old sailing ships that have like the big, you know, like a pirate ship or something.
Yeah.
All the print on the shirt is all boats. And they're talking about traveling and him going on a boat or hit that. And he's like wearing, I just thought to me, that was just a beautiful like Easter egg kind of like tie-in or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's saying that he really misses them and everything. And then he's like, well, they're going to have his funeral on Sunday. I'm never going to be able to be there, obviously. And I'm really broken up about it. And then Lucille has the idea that, you know, well, let's have a service on Friday at the same time so it can be like a memorial, you know, for your grandfather. And he's like, okay, that's really nice. And so then they do. And then right after that service is when they make the big horn dog statement that Bex talked about.
But I think the reason they did that with his grandfather, I think that was a nod to COVID.
Oh, nice.
Because lots of people were having to go through funerals.
Oh,
yeah. That's
and
a
not being
really
able. Yeah.
That's
Becky,
very
I forgive
insightful.
all the Nancy weirdness. That was outstanding.
That was very, very
outstanding.
insightful. Yeah.
What a lovely insight. Well done, Bex.
Thank you.
I really love the way Sister Frances said, I hope people don't start gossiping.
I know.
About what?
Because she's basically saying that they're having a shotgun wedding.
I thought
I
you
didn't catch
cheeky
that
little
part.
madam, but I'll accept it because you'll put a rat on my table or something if I don't.
But it was crazy because when they came out of the thing, Cyril was like, oh, you know, good night, everybody, or whatever. And then he kind of gives her this look and she's like, I hope you're not thinking about doing something that like kissing me or whatever. And he does make the most, you know, overt
I thought you'd be
comment.
loving that.
Well, at first I kind of couldn't believe my ears, to be perfectly honest with you. I was like, because this show is so chaste that like I almost never hear them
I
say
think
anything
maybe they
that.
thought though, because obviously they've been so chaste because of the social distancing, maybe they thought we're gonna have to spice this up a bit.
Yeah,
Maybe.
because they've not been affectionate or anything with each other. They've just been sat at opposite ends of a room.
And like there was
Well,
one scene
yeah.
where she was on a seat in front of him and he was like 2 meters behind, like stood behind her, trying to make it look like he was just behind the chair, but he was well behind.
Even in this episode, when they went to Nonnatus house to tell everybody that they were going to have an earlier wedding, he still was stood so far apart from her.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know.
Also, there's something I spoke about, which I'd obviously watched a few episodes and just combined them all together. So, you know, when we were talking about the pen with the baby that was adopted.
Yes.
and she gave
the
pen
teenagers,
to the teenagers who had the baby
he
Oliver.
He bought the baby book, and
Oh,
Miss Higgins said, "This deserves
lent
you
a
need
pen.
to write in ink."
And I was like, yeah, because pens are obviously a big thing because she gave Tim a pen. Like, no, she didn't that episode, Alex. It was this episode.
You were so sure.
I was so sure. But I think it's because I just kept watching loads all at the same time when I had my leg up. Now I'm back in the office after me up. But yeah, the scene with Dr. Tim and Miss Higgins was absolutely outstanding. The way he'd like passed her academy, I just absolutely loved it. And she was like, "You're discharged from duty, and I wish you the very best in medical school. This is your pen. I hope when you use it, you will think of me and try to write more legible prescriptions than your father." Absolute gold. Loved it. She was beaming with pride. He was beaming with pride. You could tell they love each other now. I just absolutely loved it. I thought that was such a gorgeous scene. And also, you know, he's leaving her, and I just think it's nice, these little relationships that other people have. Like, you know, he has got his family, but also he's going out into the world and he is going to be meeting different people and doing stuff. And it was just a nice little scene between them two. I really appreciated it.
But I also like the fact that when the kids put on the goodbye for Tim and acted out, Miss Higgins was in their home.
Yes.
Because, Tim is going out into the world. He's been working at the surgery, but also Miss Higgins is part of the family.
Yes, 100%.
See, I didn't see that part because, I don't know, must have been a deleted scene.
Maybe that was a deleted scene.
Yeah, but I saw
where everyone in America's like,
It was there.
I know. You just didn't pay attention. But it was the part where Sheila, they made Tim try on the doctor's coat, and then he was like, "Oh, but Mom, it's too long. They never wear them this long on the wards anymore." And she's like, "Well, I can take it up, and then as you've grown." And then Dr. Turner makes a comment about how he could be 6'6" when he grows up or whatever like that. And then Sheila says, "You know, I do have a way with mending medical garments." And then Tim is trying on the coat later on, or something happens later on. And did you guys see the flashback with the weird fake CGI leaves of Sheila like remembering when she sewed this button on Dr. Turner?
Well, you know, he was like, "Oh, and what did that lead to?" And I thought, are you trying to say you're going to get with Timothy now? Like, that was weird. I really like the fact that he's like, "You look about 30." And then she was like, "Oh, he does have a duffel coat to keep him looking up to date." But again, what was Sheila doing to show her love?
Mending. Sewing. Yep. It was very sweet. It was very, very sweet. But yeah.
Dr. Timothy up to Edinburgh, which is, how long do you think it'll take him to get there? He'll have to go on the train.
Well, my aunt went to university in Exeter and they lived in Carlisle.
Oh my God.
So the motorways hadn't been built at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like A roads. My mum said that my granddad was gone for like a week, like at least a week.
So A roads are just like a regular two-lane road, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, like, for an American, if you just imagine driving like a street, like for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
And it's obviously not long one road.
But wouldn't he just take the train?
Well, yeah, but when he like first took her and things, well, no, I reckon my granddad was like, I used to get a lift to and from university. I reckon my granddad was...
I mean, I did, but I was only an hour up the road.
Yeah. God, I can remember once my dad came and collected me and I was never allowed to stay. Friday night was drink the bar dry. I was never allowed to stay because he was always like, pick you up on the Friday. And then one night let me stay for Friday night. So we came back Saturday. Saturday I was so hungover, I hadn't packed. I kept having to make excuses to leave and be sick. And he got so cross with me and he just snapped at me. He was like, "Should I just take your things and you can get the train once you've pulled yourself together?" And I was like, "No, please take me."
I mean, that was every single time I got picked up. Do you remember when I had concussion? So we did this thing. I was always well drunk. But we had, I was always so hungover. The amount of times my dad had to stop on the way so I could be sick on the way home. Like, I was such a classic girl. And I wore, do you remember them sumo wrestling suits?
Yeah,
yes.
It was like what would you...
I wasn't there for this, but I do remember because I got lots of photos. From you guys.
They were in these sumo wrestling suits, but I didn't have my helmet on properly, which was like this like sumo bun. And basically I got pushed right over. But because the helmet wasn't on properly, I whacked my head quite hard on the helmet. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing. Why they let drunk people around in these things. Anyway, I got concussion basically and was really quite poorly, but didn't realise because I was really drunk and just kept being sick. And then was it you, Bex? Our other friend, I was just basically, they were really scared I was going to die. So they just stayed up all night with me. Yeah. They were like, "Don't go to sleep," and I just kept going to sleep. And then my dad came and got me, and I just had everything in bin bags because that was me. And my dad, I had to go to hospital on the way back. And my dad was like, "Yeah, she really hurt herself sumo wrestling." cushion.
Oh,
Good times.
I know. I never did anything like that.
But yeah, I think it's going to take. I mean, Timothy's going to have to get the train.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's in London. It's not like he's in the sticks of nowhere. At least he's in London.
Yeah, and there's probably a direct train, or like a direct-ish train that he could take,
Yeah.
East Coast Main Line.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a long way though. Like even now, like London to Edinburgh, like that's not a short trip. Like that's hours and hours,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do heroes and zeros, ladies?
My hero is Nancy.
Oh, you've stolen mine.
My hero is gonna be Trixie.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it gonna be Trixie?
I don't know. You tell us.
I feel like I didn't like Sister Frances went about it with the rat. So it's gonna be Trixie. The way she advocated for the conditions.
Yeah.
So you did like the way the Trixie was.
No, I take that back. It's not Trixie.
Because I was going to say, I feel like 20 minutes ago you were like, no,
Matthew
too harsh.
She didn't
she never should have said that. That was too much.
My hero is going to be Blanche.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
For being
one.
so selfless. Firstly, in giving her daughter up, no, it wasn't her daughter, her baby up for adoption.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then just immediately knowing and being so forgiving, really, of Sylvia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Blanche all day long. And then my hero is going to be
Zero is going to be
Zero.
Well, you just did your hero was Blanche.
Yeah. My zero is my zero is going to be Trixie for going out on that landing.
I love it. Carry on.
Because Matthew got the message. She didn't need to ram it home like that. It was unnecessary.
Fair.
I can't. Alex, you have to go.
Right. My hero. Actually, no, I'll do my zero first. I'm really sorry, Bex, but it's Nancy. I thought it was really selfish and ridiculous and not at all in Colette's best interest. My hero is baby Robert's sisters, who just accepted him and loved him straight from the off. And I thought they were absolutely gorgeous. And I loved that scene. And I just loved the whole thing.
Yep. My zero is going to be, I don't mean this in a crazy harsh way, but my zero is going to be Sylvie, because I just feel like I more because I was disappointed in her. She wanted a baby so much, and then in the first chance that she got it and the first opportunity for some motherly devotion and courage and, love, she basically like cut and run. And I just was disappointed to see that in her. I wish that she had been able to come around. And I know it's not an easy thing easy situation that she was going to be put into, but the thing is, it is a hard job being a mom. And like, if it wasn't there, it's just, you gotta be there for your kids. So she's my zero. And then my hero is going to be shared hero with Sister Frances and Trixie, because they said what needed to be said when it needed to be said. And I'm sorry, I'm here for passion. I'm here for enthusiasm. I'm here for speaking your mind. And, they both had it. And I think they needed to like speak truth to power and do it in a big time way. Cause like, sometimes you just got to cut through all the BS and just lay the cards out on the table.
Right on a table.
Yeah. So
I want another one really quick. Just a special mention to Fred and Violet.
Oh, yeah.
Love them. Absolutely love them.
And Reggie. Yeah.
Defo.
Next week, we will be watching Series 10, Episode 8. So if you'd like to watch and join, that would be fantastic. You'll know what we're going on about and arguing about. And Becky's crusade for Nancy carries on. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us on all the social media channels, every single one of them. Follow us. We're on YouTube as well. And like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.